Hi guys, it's me, ChazzaHD, and welcome to the Practice 2 watch-along for the 2019 Canadian Grand Prix from Montreal along the Ile Notre Dame in Canada. Great to be back for another race weekend in 2019, the 7th race weekend in 2019. And of course today I will be covering practice for you guys, and we'll be watching along practice from Canada and seeing who does have the speed in Montreal at this very, at times, exciting circuit. We'll be able to see really who does have the speed, and I'm very interested to see, especially in the midfield, who does have the speed this weekend. Just want to say, great to see everyone here as usual. No matter where you're in the world, hopefully having a very good Friday. For me, it's a good day, but in terms of the weather here, it's a lot worse than it is at the track. At the track, it is a very sunny day. So we shall see some representative times in Canada. But yeah, great to see everyone here as usual. And any new people, great to see you here as well. As we'll now get into the build-up of Practice 2. Now, if you did not see Practice 1 earlier and you don't know the results, I'll take you through them right now. So, fastest of all was Lewis Hamilton, no surprise, from Valtteri Bottas in second. Charles Leclerc was third, Max Verstappen was fourth, then it was Vettel fifth, Raikkonen sixth, Sainz in seventh, Ricciardo eighth, Perez ninth, and Kevin Magnussen in P10, Lando Norris P11, and then Hülkenberg, Gasly, very poor there, in P13, and then Antonio Giovinazzi 14th, then Grosjean, Albon, Stroll, of course the home driver, in 17th place, then Kvyat 18th, Russell 19th, and Latifi 20th. The reason Latifi drove this morning is because, of course, he is Canadian and he is Williams's reserve driver, so it was always going to happen. So those are your results for Practice 1. But now, let's go through all the teams and preview how I think they will do this weekend, but also in terms of their one-lap speed in Practice 2. So let's first go to Mercedes. Now, Mercedes, they are going to have the best car. There is absolutely no doubt about that. The only way another team can beat them this weekend is if Mercedes have some sort of calamity, whether that's a crash or some sort of reliability trouble. That's the only way Mercedes are going to lose this weekend. So don't be surprised if they are right at the front of the timesheets 1 and 2, because they have the best car and they have two drivers who are very good at this track. They both, Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton, have very good records at this circuit. So if nothing goes wrong, then they are really impossible to beat this weekend. They are just that good in terms of the drivers and, of course, the team. So Mercedes, yeah, they're going to have the best car. It'll be interesting to see, though, on the speed traps, and I'll try to cover this during Practice 2, but it will be interesting to see what their top speeds are on the back straight, because, of course, if you don't know, Mercedes have their new Spec 2 power unit for this weekend. Ferrari also have some new power unit parts, but Mercedes have brought a completely new power unit, and it is expected to be a bit of a boost on their Spec 1 that they used for the first 6 races. So it's going to be interesting to see how quick they are in a straight line. But yeah, Mercedes, they're going to have the best car. No surprises about that. Next up is Ferrari. Ferrari should be, say, 3rd and 4th. I don't think they can really, again, unless something goes massively wrong for Mercedes, I don't see how Ferrari can genuinely, in a head-to-head battle, beat them really in any area except for straight line speed. But in terms of on-track battling, I just don't see how Ferrari can beat them this weekend. But they should, in terms of one-lap speed, they should be ahead of Red Bull. And if they're not, then that would be an embarrassment, honestly, because the Ferrari power unit is so strong in a straight line compared to the Honda power unit. And also, this sort of track is a better track for the Ferrari car than it is for the Red Bull car. Ferrari's concept is suited better to a track like this than it was in Monaco or Barcelona. So Ferrari, they need to really be third and fourth and not be, you know, miles ahead of Red Bull, but they've got to be strong in third and fourth place. Again, they're not going to be first and second, but if they're third and fourth and comfortably ahead of Max Verstappen, then I think that would be good enough from Ferrari, because I think we understand that Ferrari have a lot of issues right now. They don't have a good enough car to win a race right now, and that's just the way it is right now for Ferrari. By the way, I did upload a video on my channel yesterday, guys, to do with Ferrari and why and how they need to rebuild for the future. If you've not checked it out, it's in the description down below. There's a link down below to that video. But yeah, if Ferrari can pull off a third and fourth in terms of qualifying pace, that would be good. That would be good for Ferrari. Again, because they're not expected to be as quick for me as Mercedes. But now, let's get on to Red Bull. Compared to Monaco, Red Bull will drop back. They won't have the second best car. I think Max Verstappen will be close enough to the two Ferraris if those two Ferrari drivers or the Ferrari team make a mistake, that he will be close enough to capitalize on any errors by Ferrari or their drivers. But if they don't make any errors, Ferrari, I think Max Verstappen is realistically going to be in P5. It will be interesting to see once we get to the race simulations later on. It will be interesting to see how quick the Red Bull is compared to the Ferrari. I expect the Red Bull to be quicker in terms of race pace compared to the Ferrari around this track. But yeah, if he can, in terms of one lap speed, which of course is what we're going to be looking out for in practice 2, which of course, as you can see in the top left, starts in just over 20 minutes time. If he can be in the top 5, that's good enough for me. And for Pierre Gasly, now the midfield isn't too far behind Red Bull, but Pierre Gasly should still be in the top 6 in Canada. Of course, in practice 1, he was in P13, which is quite frankly not good enough. Now, he should be in the top 6, but I don't think this weekend he will necessarily be a part of that top team fight. I think he is probably going to be in the fight with the midfield, because the midfield is very close behind Red Bull. And Pierre's not really that good around this track. I mean, last year around this track, even though he did, I think, start from the back, he wasn't that great around this track. So I think Gasly will struggle to get into the top 6. He should get into the top 6, but I think he will struggle to do so. But now, let me get into the rest of the field and get into the midfield and look at how close it's going to be in the midfield this weekend. First up, Renault. Compared to Monaco, I think Renault will drop back. I think Renault are going to struggle to get into the top 10 this weekend. It's going to take on race day a bit of good race pace and a bit of luck for them to get into the top 10. But in terms of pure one-lap pace, I don't see how Renault have a good enough car to be in the top 10. It's going to take a monumental effort from their drivers to do so. But yeah, Renault, they're going to be between 11th and 15th place, which is not terrible considering how they've been so far this year. But of course, if they are going to start climbing the constructors, not falling down the constructors, they've got to start getting in that top 10 consistently and be one of the front-running midfield teams, which they are, of course, right now, not a front-running midfield team. Next up is McLaren. McLaren right now, you have to say, the best team in the midfield in Formula 1. And this is a good track for McLaren to come to, because it's a track that does suit their car better than Monaco and I think Barcelona. And I think McLaren, as long as they can definitely, you know, maximize everything they have with their two drivers, they really should be scoring points on race day with both cars. But I think for McLaren, as long as they can get a car strongly into the top 10, that would be enough for them. They are right now 13 points clear of Racing Point, who are in 5th. McLaren, of course, are in P4 in the Constructors. But yeah, if they can get a car strongly into the top 10 like they did in practice one with Carlos Sainz, who I think was in P7, for me that's good enough for McLaren. And to be honest, I think that's probably what McLaren are going to do at least this weekend. But really, it should be both cars getting into that top 10. Next up is Alfa Romeo, who come off two, you have to say, really poor showings in Barcelona and Monaco, but they will improve for the Canadian Grand Prix because their car is better suited to this track than those two tracks were. And it's not really a surprise. We knew Barcelona and Monaco would be weaker tracks for them than Canada, so it's not a surprise that they are already looking better at this track than they were, say, a fortnight ago in Monaco. But one thing Alfa absolutely have to do is get a car in qualifying and on race day really into the top 10, because they've got to start scoring points again if they are going to have a chance of a top 5 finish in the Constructors. They really should be in that fight, but if they want to remain in that fight, they've got to be in the top 10 this weekend. They have to be, because if they don't get any points and other teams like Haas and McLaren again score points, then I think Alfa are going to start being left behind in that midfield battle. So Alfa have got to respond this weekend. It is a big weekend for Alfa Romeo. Next up we go to Haas. Last two races have been pretty good for Haas. They have been making a couple of errors which have cost them more points than they should have got. But in terms of the raw pace of the car, it's definitely better than it was in the first 4 races, and that is good to see. And coming to this race, Haas should be definitely getting at least one car into the top 10, if not both cars into the top 10, because of course the Ferrari power unit they have, very, very strong in a straight line. And in general, the Haas car is suited or better suited to this kind of track than other tracks on the calendar, such as the Chinese Grand Prix track in Shanghai. So I think Haas will be right up there in the midfield with McLaren and maybe Alfa Romeo. But yeah, Haas are definitely going to be strong this weekend. Maybe not as strong as they were in Barcelona, but they will be, say, as strong as they were in terms of one lap speed as they were in Bahrain. Hopefully they don't repeat the race pace from that Grand Prix, but they will be as strong in terms of qualifying pace as they were in Bahrain. Toro Rosso next up. This team is really a team on the move, scoring points in Spain with Dani Kvyat in P9, I think it was, and then scoring 10 points in Monaco, 7th and 8th for Kvyat and Albon. Toro Rosso, again, they're really a team on the move. And it's going to be interesting to see what Toro Rosso do this weekend. I think in terms of one lap's pace, I think they will be outside the top 10. I don't think they have enough of what it takes around this track to be in the top 10 in terms of qualifying speed. But as we've said before, when it comes to race pace, Toro Rosso do tend to be very strong. But if they can be stronger than I'm saying, then that could point towards a very strong 2019 for Toro Rosso, because I think, as me and Nib kind of said in our podcast, which of course previewed the Canadian Grand Prix a week ago, which, by the way, if you've not checked that out, make sure to do so. It's on the channel, on the homepage, I believe. We kind of said in that video that Toro Rosso so far this season have proven to be good around all kinds of circuits. Now, we'll see how they get on here, but if that continues here, then I think Toro Rosso, as I kind of alluded to in that podcast, they really could be in the fight for a top 5 in the Constructors this season, and I hope Toro Rosso can continue to show the good form they have shown this season. It would be good to see that. Next up, Racing Point, of course, it is home driver Lance Stroll's home Grand Prix. And, well, of course, the home fans, the home Canadian fans, are going to be hoping for something a bit more from Lance that he's produced in the last couple races. In terms of the qualifying pace, I think Lance will disappoint once again because the guy, when it comes to qualifying, tends to be absolutely abysmal. So yeah, I don't expect to see Stroll that high up here at his home track. But for Sergio Perez, normally this is a good track for him, and this is a better circuit for the Racing Point car. So if Stroll can get it together and Perez can continue to show the type of speed he has so far this season, which has been good, then Racing Point, I think, will be kind of similar to Toro Rosso. By the way, just to let you guys know, I was going to say Force India, Racing Point and Williams also have the new Spec 2 Mercedes power unit. Meaning, of course, that their straight line speed will be improved compared to, say, the Ferrari powered teams than it was in Barcelona and Monaco. So that will play a factor in this Grand Prix weekend. So yeah, Racing Point should be stronger. Hopefully their home driver, Lance Stroll, is a bit stronger, but I'm not expecting him to. But Sergio Perez should be good as usual. And then, of course, last of all is Williams, who are going to be at the back. But guys, with 13 minutes to go until practice 2, comment down below or comment right now in the live chat. Out of the teams, who do you think will be strong this weekend and not so strong this weekend? Let me know in the live chat, and I'll get to reading as many of your comments as I can in the next 10 minutes or so as we build up to the start of practice 2. So yeah, make sure to post your comments in there, and I'll read out as many as I can. Just to say though, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, as we will be doing a watch along for qualifying and the race. And also, this channel is the only place you can catch a watch along for qualifying and the race for the Canadian Grand Prix of 2019 this weekend. So make sure to subscribe for that content. Bottom right of the screen, you can subscribe right there, or of course you can go to my homepage, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell. And also, of course, don't forget to hit this video with a like. But yeah, before I get on to reading your comments, guys, I'm just going to quickly move on to a different picture. There you go. And quickly take a drink to make sure my throat, of course, which famously goes a lot, I'm going to try and make sure it lasts the whole stream. Right, so let's see what you guys have to say. Let me try and find the start of these comments. Gina says, I want to see Max. I want to see what Max can do in quality in the race. He is very good at this track. Yeah, Max is very good, but he's never really had a car here that's been strong enough to win. I think if he had, in the last couple of years, a strong enough car to win, I think he probably would have won here. But yeah, the Red Bull car has never really been, in its history, suited to this track. I mean, they've only won the Canadian Grand Prix twice. One of them was Daniel Ricciardo in 2014, of course, famously, but that was because of Mercedes' reliability issues, and Vettel won in 2013 because the Red Bull car was so good in terms of downforce that the weaknesses on the straights could not be exposed. So yeah, it's not that great of a track for Red Bull in terms of its history. So it's a shame for Max, but at least he is doing the best he can in that car. Tonka Toy Truck says, and it is a good point, but it's kind of to do with the Alfa Romeo car, to be honest. He says, Kimi's start is strong this season, but he is now sliding backwards. I agree, but again, it's because of the car. You have to remember, in Australia, I don't think the Alfa was as good as the team were hoping. Bahrain and China, the car was pretty good on race day. I think Kimi did very, very well in that Alfa. In Baku, the car was very good, but he got a penalty, of course, because the front wing failed a deflection test. And then in Barcelona and Monaco, the car was not good enough to be in the top 10. So I can't really fault Kimi this season. I know what you mean. He is, in terms of his results, sliding backwards, but I think that is mainly to do with the Alfa Romeo car. I think Kimi Räikkönen this season has been one of the best drivers on the grid. For me, he really has. He's been very consistent and at times has been very, very quick considering the car that he does have. Simon Troop says, I think it'll be a better race this year than last year. Well, let's hope so, because last year's race was, quite frankly, a disgrace considering the history of this great track. Normally we come to Canada and we expect chaos, you know, unexpected podium finishes, unexpected battles on track, crashes, you know, tons of overtakes, all of that stuff. But last year it was just as bad as the Monaco Grand Prix of last year. And for a Canadian Grand Prix to be as bad as a Monaco Grand Prix, that really does tell you that that Canadian Grand Prix of 2018 was terrible. And that Canadian Grand Prix was probably one of the worst races I've ever seen. It was so boring. Nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened. Robert says Ferrari car is just the same from last year with same pace. Probably their best quali lap will be a 10.7, exactly like last year's pole. Yeah, in practice one, Ferrari's lap time was about the same as it was in practice one from 2018. Now that isn't necessarily going to happen for practice 2, practice 3, qualifying in the race, but it does show you how Mercedes, by the way, was 0.6 up on their practice 1 time from 2018. It does show you how Mercedes aerodynamically have really moved their car forward and how Ferrari just haven't. The only area of the Ferrari car that's really improved is the engine, and in terms of the amount of straight line speed they have compared to the other engine manufacturers. Their aerodynamic package is just nowhere near good enough, and that's why I say, guys, and you might find it controversial, but I don't care. That's why I say I don't think Ferrari are going to win a race this season, because I don't think they have enough of what it takes as a team and with their car to win a race. I think Ferrari this season are basically going to be like Williams from 2014. They'll have a very quick car at certain tracks which suit their car, but they just will never have a good enough car to win a race. I think Red Bull have a better chance of winning a race, and I think Red Bull probably will win a Grand Prix in 2019. But for Ferrari, I just don't see it. I don't think they are good enough as a team with their car to win. Talking of Ferrari, there's a lovely picture of their two drivers. Whoever said that the two Ferrari drivers were, in conflict or didn't like each other? Well, there you go. Right, let's read out a few more comments as we are, 6 minutes away from the start of practice 2. John Hubner says, remember Ferrari said their cars would be slower this year. Problem is, it's their car. Yeah, if you look at not only this weekend so far, but if you look at the season so far, Ferrari's lap times have been very similar to last year, if not slightly slower. So that is embarrassing. That really is embarrassing that Ferrari literally haven't gone forward with their car. I mean, if they had this car last year, of course, they would have been great, but there you go. Right, let me find a couple more comments here. Magath88 says that updated Merc engine is so good, Williams are less than a second away from the nearest competitor. Well, let's see in practice 2 what happens, because I don't think Williams are going to be that competitive with people this weekend. Right, let me find some more. I'm sure I've missed some more comments. Annette, great to see you. Says it had better be a better race this year than last year. I'm staying up all bloody night to watch it. Yeah, I know in Australia it's a very rough time in terms of when you guys have to watch the Canadian Grand Prix. By the way, Nib, as you all know, will be on the race watch along on Sunday, just to let you guys know that. But it is a bit of a tough one for him and for people in Australia, because I believe it's like 4 o'clock in the morning right now. And that's when qualifying the race is for this weekend in Canada. So yeah, it's a bit of a tough one for you guys, but hopefully Formula One can reward you. As we are now 4 minutes away, I'll cut to my last picture before we start getting pictures up from the track. But Williams is still sandbagging. Yeah, of course. Annette saying Niblo's a champ. Absolutely. Absolutely he is. Hello to Curiosity, who says, hi F1 enthusiasts. John Hubler saying, Ferrari just need to let their drivers go at it and see what happens. Or let what happens happen. It depends on the situation, though. I mean, if Ferrari prove me wrong and they are in some way in a position to win a race and their drivers are 1-2 and very close on track, then they're going to have to call team orders if it will result in them winning a Grand Prix. But if they're, you know, struggling around in 5th and 6th, then yeah, why not? Because, you know, they're not going to lose anything anymore, really, are they? Of Ferrari. By the way, we have, for this weekend, of course, soft, medium, and hard. No changes there. But we do have the C5, C4, and C3 compound of tyre. And that will definitely make tyre wear a bit of an issue this weekend, because Canada, it's not massively bad on tyres, but it can be on your rear tyres, especially if you are close and racing another person on track. So yeah, the rear tyres really do take a pounding at this track because it's very rear limited out of a lot of the corners. So the rear tyres, they really do get beaten up bad at this track. Let me just try and get up on Twitter. But yeah, by the way, at the track, it's a bit windy, but it's still very nice weather, very sunny, and should really be no problem for people or for the drivers at the track in terms of grip. It was a bit dusty this morning, but that's normally the case when we come to a street circuit. It can be quite dusty when you first, you know, get out there in the morning. As yet, we are now a minute and a half away from practice 2. Again, guys, this is the only place to see qualifying and race watch along on YouTube this weekend, so don't forget to subscribe for that. Bottom right of the screen, you can subscribe right there, or click on my channel name, go to my channel page and subscribe, and hit the notifications bell for that content. As we're seeing Carlos Sainz, yes it is, Carlos Sainz in the McLaren there, who is getting strapped in, ready to go at the start of FP2. As I think now, might as well get the running order going. By the way, this running order is not the current one, of course. This is the final finishing order of the Monaco Grand Prix 2 weeks ago. I just haven't touched it ever since. So let me quickly do the timer just a moment. So let me just hide it and get ready to put the timer to what it is, or what it should be, correctly. As here we go, practice 2 is about to start, and it starts in just a moment. In 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So there you go. And then I'll just quickly replace the text. You guys. And yeah, I'll update the running order, of course, when we get some proper times on the board. So there you go. Let me just adjust that like so. So there you go. So, an hour and 29 minutes remaining in practice 2. No cars yet out on track. Well, as I say that, here comes a car, and it is Robert Kubica in the Williams. Someone who has not driven around this track for a very long time. A very long time indeed. I'm just going to quickly show you, though, that it is definitely hot in Montreal. We have a bit of a heat haze at the circuit. Let me just show you guys what I mean by that. As Kubica coming up to the end of the first sector. Here you go. And let me just readjust. So there you go. That is the heat haze at circuit. So definitely warm enough for the cars and the tyres, you know, to get up to grip and all that stuff. As there is Valtteri Bottas preparing to go out on track. There is some high-vis paint being put on a McLaren. So some aero testing, I'm guessing, is going to be going on. And by the way, Annette, who asks in the chat, any word on Bottas's power unit misfiring at the end of practice 1? I did see that he had that issue, and by the way, it was a loss of, I think, fuel pressure. I don't know if his car's been fixed or not. I don't know. Hopefully for his sake it is, but I'm not sure right now. As Robert Kubica is about to complete the first lap time of practice 2. He's into the first few corners. He's not travelling that quickly. The Williams, of course, looking very, very heavy and terrible around this circuit. As he now comes to the end of the first sector. And now on the, I think, first DRS straight for this year. I think that DRS straight between turn 7 and 8 is still here. I didn't actually watch practice 1, by the way, guys, so I don't know for sure. But hopefully it is, so the racing can be more so guaranteed to be good. Here comes Kubica through the hairpin. Exits the hairpin. And now comes onto the back straight where power is everything. You've got to have good straight line speed in this final sector if you are to succeed. And here he comes. The final chicane. Car looking absolutely terrible in terms of grip. And he comes across the line and does a very, very slow 1:21.7. Don't worry, that's not as fast as he can go. I think he was, well, he wasn't pushing as hard as he could. Let me put it that way. As Carlos Sainz is now out on circuit. Here is the moment that Robert Kubica came out on track in the Williams. And who is that? That's a Toro Rosso of Alexander Albon we're seeing currently in his Toro Rosso pits. And he's about to come out on track, I believe, as they take away certain covers off the car. Very slow start to practice 2, which of course is not great to see, but that's what teams want to do. And there is Lewis Hamilton signing autographs as he comes into the Mercedes garage area. Tonka Toy Truck asking, has Rich Energy come up with a new logo yet? Well, we can tell you that Rich Energy have told Haas to get rid of their logo off the car. So Haas will not be running their logo on the car. I don't know, though, if they're going to replace that logo. And I don't know when, if they are. So, yeah, we'll see. And yep, Alexander Albon is on track. And Annette clarifying that Bottas's issue was with fuel delivery, not power unit, so that's good. That, I don't think, will be a massive issue for them to fix, as Daniel Ricciardo is getting strapped in. And here comes Carlos Sainz on the hard compound tyre. And coming up now to turn 4 and turn 5. Getting very close to the wall on the outside, so it's pushing hard early on. And is already a second and a half up on Robert Kubica through the first sector. So very strong there for Carlos Sainz, but I think Kubica wasn't really pushing that hard. But Carlos Sainz definitely looking good in this McLaren, as Sainz now comes up to the end of the middle sector. He's done a 46 flat for the middle sector. And now he will come on to that back straight and opens the DRS. The DRS opening, I think, is slightly earlier this year on the back straight, so that might promote overtaking. We'll have to see. Robert Kubica improves his lap time to a 19.5, but here comes Carlos Sainz to smash that to bits. And yeah, goes fastest on a 1:16.3, but still very, very slow compared to what they could be doing out on track. They really should be down in the 1 minute 12s or 11s at this circuit. Oh, and Alexander Albon there on his first time cutting the chicane at turn, I think that's the turn 8 and 9 chicanes. So a bit of a worry there for Albon, as Sergio Perez, Lance Stroll, Kimi Raikkonen and Lando Norris have headed out onto track. They're on outlaps. Daniel Ricciardo, I think, is about to come out on track. And Albon does continue on this lap. Albon, I think, will go third behind Kubica. No, he goes second. Only 15 thousandths of a second slower than Sainz, despite cutting the chicane. He must have just straight lined that chicane and kept his foot down. But yeah, there you go. Only 3 people completing a time so far. If you're new around here, what I do, of course, is provide a radio commentary. But when it comes to the running order, and this is a replay, so he tried to turn in, but it was too dusty, and he decided to turn out. Yeah, it was the grip turning in there was not that great for Albon into turn 8 and 9. But yeah, once everyone has completed a lap time, then I will update the running order to what it actually is. As Sergio Perez starts his first lap, and so does Lance Stroll. Stroll is on the hard compound tyre. And car looking all right so far. Turns it into 4, understeer there. The rear end is a bit wobbly, not that stable. And slight understeer there in 6. But the exit of 6 into 7 looks good enough. And now comes up to turn 8. So yeah, DRS. There is a DRS zone between turn 7 and 8. That's good to see. This Racing Point, though, even though they are going to be better this weekend because this track does suit them better, the rear end of the car just doesn't look stable at all. It looks like they're having to really contain the rear end of the car to keep it from, you know, getting sideways or keep, you know, the tyres from spinning up. It's a really unstable car at the rear. There's Robert Kubica on the screen, by the way. As I was about to say, Carlos Sainz goes even faster, but Sergio Perez goes fastest. Lance Stroll now goes fastest on a 14.7. That is for Lance Stroll. But again, that Racing Point really does look unstable. By the way, hello to Crystal Racing and Mr. Dog. Great to see you guys. Great to see you, Crystal Racing, of course, a regular around here. As Kevin Magnussen is now on a lap. Lando Norris just completed a lap and went P4. And yeah, Magnussen currently on a lap. Kvyat and Vettel are now on circuit. Kimi Raikkonen has completed a lap and gone P5. Alexander Albon now goes fastest on a 1:14.7. Almost a tenth faster than Stroll. Here comes Magnussen. Car looking alright so far, but he's definitely not pushing it as hard as he could in the Haas. As now he gets slight traffic there with the racing point. That's going to cost him time. I don't know if this is going to put him fastest or not. We're not seeing any sector times, unfortunately. As Charles Leclerc, by the way, is now on track as Danny Kvyat starts his first lap of practice 2. Here comes Kevin Magnussen, DRS wide open, bit of a slipstream, and he goes P5 on a 15.1. And Sebastian Vettel now on a lap. Here he is on the medium compound tyre. Let's see how this Ferrari is looking. Down into 6. Oh, bit of understeer there. Car looked better in 7, but yeah, bit of understeer in turn 6 there. As he now opens the DRS down to turn 8. Car not looking that great, if I'm honest, but it's not looking horrible, but not looking that great. As he now comes to the hairpin. This doesn't look like a very fast time. I think Vettel won't go fastest with this time because it doesn't look like he's pushing particularly hard. By the way, Kurt Borman, I will answer your question in just a moment. As Danny Kvyat now goes fastest, half a tenth faster than Albon. Carlos Sainz goes 2 tenths faster than Kvyat. And Sebastian Vettel goes 4 tenths faster than Carlos Sainz and goes to the top on a 14.0 on the medium compound tyres. Sergio Perez goes 3rd. Who else have we got on out laps? Charles Leclerc is currently doing a lap. And Daniel Ricciardo and Pierre Gasly are on an outlap. Kimi Raikkonen has just gone up to P7. Kurt Borman says, how's it, Chaz? It's good. Hopefully you're going good as well. He asks, I wanted to know your opinion on the Vettel retiring rumours for the end of the season. Hold that just a moment. As Charles Leclerc goes fastest by not a third of a second, but by about a third of a tenth. I don't believe Sebastian Vettel is going to retire. I don't believe those rumours to be true because I don't see why Sebastian would retire, because you have to remember Sebastian Vettel cares a lot about his legacy. He will not want to retire after having a mediocre 2019. He will want to retire on his terms. And he definitely doesn't want to retire again after having a mediocre 2019. So he ain't retiring. There is no way Sebastian Vettel is retiring at the end of the season. I would be massively surprised. And honestly, I'm struggling to see what his reasoning would be. Because I think he does have a lot more to give. And I think if he does retire, he will want to retire and go out in his own way, on his own terms. But we'll see at the end of the season as Kevin Magnussen goes 3rd. As we've got, I'm just trying to see. So Daniel Ricciardo and Pierre Gasly are now on a lap time as Lando Norris goes up to P6 on a 14.5. Here is Danny Kvyat as Daniel Ricciardo goes P11 on a 15.9. Kvyat so far on the medium compound on a decent lap so far. Let's see how this Honda is doing down this straight. Let's see what the time difference is compared to the Ferrari and how much they lose out here. So, comes into the final chicane and onto the pit straight. And how far off is Danny Kvyat? About 6 tenths of a second. So yeah, Honda, they're losing, and that is about right. They're losing about half a second in the straights. That's about right. Sebastian Vettel, by the way, goes even faster than Charles Leclerc and now goes fast on a 13.9. Sergio Perez goes third. Charles Leclerc is currently on another lap, but he's not improving right now on that lap, as we've got a McLaren there warming up its tyres. Leclerc gets a slipstream from the Haas. That might put him fastest, you know. Slipstream's very important here. And here comes Charles Leclerc, bouncing very hard over the curbs, and I think will not go any faster. And here he comes, and no, will not go any faster. He blew it at the final chicane. As Hulkenberg goes P10. By the way, Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, and now George Russell are on outlaps. And this is Gasly at turn 8, locked up the outside front and decided to do what Albon did and cut the chicane. Pierre Gasly definitely struggling this weekend. There is no doubt about that. Here is, by the way, when Alexander Albon went down that chicane. Did the exact same as what Pierre Gasly just did. As Lewis Hamilton now starts his first flying lap in practice 2. Let's see how quick those Mercedes cars are right out the blocks. So here comes Hamilton. End of the first sector. How much faster will he be? He is already half a second up. That Mercedes is on it. Half a second up after the first sector. As Carlos Sainz, by the way, goes up to P4. That Mercedes, it does look like it's in another world. It looks like a car from a future year. As now 9 tenths up on Vettel. This is a stunning first run for Lewis Hamilton. He's going to go comfortably faster. As he now opens the DRS. And are they going to be gaining Mercedes in the final sector? Let's see. Where power is important. Puts it into the final chicane. Looking very, very good. And here comes Lewis Hamilton. And he does a 1:12.9. Absolute stunner. As here comes Valtteri Bottas. And he does a 13.2. Goes about 3 tenths of a second slower. Sebastian Vettel goes... who stays third, but does a better lap time of a 13.7. But Ferrari, 8 tenths and a second off. And Mercedes have only just done their first run. As here comes Charles Leclerc. Let's see what he has as he comes into the final chicane. And Ferrari car just doesn't look anywhere near as good as the Mercedes in that chicane. And comes to the line and goes fourth. Actually stays fourth, but almost goes as quick as Sebastian Vettel. Only 7 thousandths of a second slower. We've only got Max Verstappen, Romain Grosjean, and Antonio Giovinazzi not completing a lap right now. Here is a picture of a Ferrari, but I think now I am going to... and let me quickly just adjust it. I'm going to now start doing the running order. So let me do that right now as Max Verstappen starts his first run of the practice session. So you got Bottas in second, Hamilton fastest, Vettel is third, then Charles Leclerc fourth, fifth is Nico Hulkenberg, and then you've got Danny Kvyat in sixth, and then Sergio Perez nicely up in P7. There's Martin Brundle and Jenson Button at turn 4 on Sky F1. And then it is... And now we have annoyingly cut away, so I can't complete the order. This is typical of Sky F1. They don't care about the lap times. They only care, of course, about themselves when we want to see the lap times on circuit. Yeah, we'll have to wait on that. Sorry if there's a couple names repeating themselves, but again, I can't update it until Sky go back to the lap count or the time counter. Right, let me read out some comments in the meantime. Han Solo says Mercedes have 6 wins in a row, and now they actually have an engine upgrade for the next 6 races. Indeed, and by the way, Mercedes were faster in the final sector by about, I think, 1/10 of a second. So, if that means that Mercedes are now the best in that area, then, well, Ferrari are going to have a horror show in terms of lap time difference this weekend. As still watching, about to say Murray Walker there, Martin Brundle and Jenson Button at turn 4. Tonka Toy Truck says, and it is kind of true, the midfield battle is definitely way more interesting than the top team battle. It really is. It's the thing that has been, for me, clearly the most interesting and exciting thing this season. And if we didn't have Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull on the grid, I think Formula 1 would be very exciting, because that battle between McLaren, Renault, Racing Point, Haas, Alfa, Toro Rosso, it's so close and it's so exciting. It's a shame the top 3 teams can't be like that. Or the whole field, of course, but that is, of course, a dream world. That will never happen. But let me now complete the order. So, Carlos Sainz is now P6, and then in P7, you have Max Verstappen. In P8 is Danny Kvyat. And then P9 is Sergio Perez. They're good there for Perez. And they've cut away again, which is annoying. And then it is Kevin Magnussen in P10. So the top 10 right now, guys, is the current top 10. I'm just waiting for Sky to stop cutting away. And then you've got Albon in P11. So Toro Rosso looking all right. And then in P12 is Lando Norris. P13, Daniel Ricciardo, who needs to definitely improve his time, because Hülkenberg is about 3/4 of a second faster. As a replay here of Hamilton into the final chicane, presumably, or clumping the first part a bit too heavily. And that definitely doesn't improve the lap time, because you briefly do lose control of the car. So, yeah, that's that replay. Yeah, Hülkenberg 7/10 faster than Ricciardo right now. But Ricciardo is 13th. Then you got Stroll in 14th. Gasly 15th. Wow, that is bad. And then Kimi Räikkönen is 16th. So Kimi not looking that great so far. And now we've gone to an ad break. Sky F1's coverage is really that good. So yeah, Kimi Räikkönen is 16th, and then 17th is George Russell. Then 18th is Kubica. 19th at the moment is Roman Grosjean, and then at the back is Giovinazzi, who hasn't been out on track yet. He did actually have a crash in practice 1, so that is probably why we haven't seen him yet. But guys, if you're just tuning in, the current running order running along the bottom of your screen is the live order from practice 2 with 1 hour and 5 minutes remaining. So Lewis Hamilton is currently fastest, from Valtteri Bottas in 2nd, Sebastian Vettel is 3rd, Charles Leclerc is 4th, Nico Hülkenberg is 5th, then it is Carlos Sainz in P6, Max Verstappen P7, Kvyat P8, Perez P9, Magnussen P10, Albon P11, Norris P12, Ricciardo P13, Stroll P14, P15 Gasly, P16 is Raikkonen. Then it's the 2 Williamses of Russell and Kubica, 17th and 18th, Grosjean 19th, and Antonio Giovinazzi in 20th. But just to remind you guys, that's only the first runs really done in practice 2. and they were done on the medium compound tyres. Now, hopefully very soon, we will start to see the first proper qualifying simulations on the soft compound tyre, where things really should get interesting. But until they come back from an ad break, I'll try and put a different picture on the screen if I can, and then read out a couple comments from you guys. And yet I'll show you Charles Leclerc at the final chicane, kind of similar to Lewis Hamilton, getting a bit, say, happy on those curbs at the final chicane. Let me just get that up on screen. And there you go. I'll quickly adjust it. Charles Leclerc currently P4. Well, Ferrari's drivers right now are doing fine. It's just the car's terrible. It really is terrible. And I tell you, if Ferrari are that far off in qualifying, then yeah, Ferrari definitely will not win a race this season. You can get rid of your predictions for Austria or Monza for Ferrari to be, you know, massively quick. Because at a power track, if your main advantage is straight line speed and you're still that far off, you haven't got a chance. You really haven't got a chance. Let me just take a look at some comments. Red Surfboy Chas, apply for a job at Sky. How many agree? I'd love to work for them, of course, but I'd also love to do this channel. Right, let me find a couple more comments here. Kurt Borman, by the way, hello to Tayyeb, or Tayyib, I think it is. Hello to you. Kurt Borman asks again, why are Ferrari not finding the problem with their car and sorting it out? Are they just as clueless as us? Well, this is what makes it really bad, is that we're not clueless about what their issues are. We know what their issues are. The concept they have gone for with their front wing, which is definitely a lot different to other teams such as Mercedes and Red Bull, as Lewis Hamilton has hit the wall at turn 9. He's hit the wall, and I think, has he parked his car? I don't know, but Lewis Hamilton hitting the wall on the exit of 9, and that's going to be a damaged car. That might be a damaged rear suspension. Yeah, it clips the inside cover a bit too hard, hits the wall pretty hard, and that is definitely a damaged car. And yeah, Lewis Hamilton's definitely broken the suspension on that rear, on that right rear, and he's also damaged the rear wing, I think. So Lewis Hamilton comes in. Bit ragged there for Lewis as Max Verstappen goes P3. I'll update that in a moment. There's a couple other changes in the order that I'll update. But to get back to Kurt Borman's question, we know what the issues are. The concept they've gone for with the front wing, again, which is radical and is a lot different to, say, Mercedes or Red Bull's front wing design, has failed. It's not producing enough downforce. That's why they have really bad understeer compared to Mercedes and Red Bull. But also, they can't get the tyres working, and that has something to do with their front wing also. So those are the two main issues. Ferrari know that those issues are what they have, but they're just taking a bit longer to fix them than they really should be. Because I was one of the first people to say that that Ferrari front wing concept they've gone for doesn't work. I was one of the first people to say that after the Chinese Grand Prix in Shanghai. And now it's become clear. So they've had, you know, a month and a half really to work on something different, to really get more pace out the tyres and stuff like that. They're trying to improve their car, no doubt about it, Ferrari, but it's just not working. But let me just quickly update the order. So Grosjean has gone 19th to 9th. Perez is P10, and then you got Magnussen in P11. Then it's Albon P12. P13 is currently Lando Norris. And then in P14, let me just quickly update this. P14 is Daniel Ricciardo. And then it's Stroll in 15th. Gasly 16th. Again, terrible. Yeah, Gasly 16th. And then Kimi Raikkonen 17th. And then Russell 18th. Kubica 19th. And Giovinazzi, I believe, is still at the very back. So that is the current order. With 59 minutes to go, as Gasly, by the way, has just improved. I think, yep, he has improved. Not by much. He's gone up to P13. So yeah, so Norris then will drop down to 14th, and then Daniel Ricciardo down in 15th. Don't know what happened for Ricciardo on his first run. And then you got Stroll in 16th with Raikkonen 17th, and then the rest of the field, as you can see. As Hamilton now walks away, and I don't think, by the way, Lewis Hamilton is I don't think Hamilton is going to come back out on track. I think that car is beyond repair to get out again in practice too. But we'll see, of course, as Perez is on. He's come back out on track on a lap, I believe, and he's on the hard compound tyre, which is a bit weird. Unless he's been out on track the entire time and I've missed that. That's probably what's happened. As he now comes to the line, does Perez go any faster? No, he doesn't. He's 2 tenths down on his fastest time, which is a 14.2 for himself. Crystal Racing says, to be fair, the secret aerodynamicist on the BBC noted problems with the Ferrari front wing in Australia or after Australia. I haven't seen that, so if that is true, then full credit to that guy. But in terms of, you know, say, I didn't say on Twitter, but in terms of on YouTube, I was probably the first person who said that. And one of the first people that did catch on to that. I always had my suspicions through Bahrain as to that front wing, and then in China it was confirmed for me that that front wing just wasn't working. As we've only got 4 cars on track, by the way. That is Carlos Sainz, Sergio Perez, Ricciardo, Lance Stroll, and Robert Kubica. I'm going to quickly post a picture of Lewis Hamilton losing it out of turn 9 and hitting the wall pretty hard and damaging his car. So let me get that on screen. By the way, great lap by Max Verstappen to get up to P3. That is a really great lap. So here you go. That's when Hamilton hit the wall. You won't want to be doing that in qualifying, because if he does, if he was to do that in Q1, that would be him done for qualifying and he'd be near the back. So he's got to cut these errors out. Can't afford to do that here because you will pay the price. Canada takes no prisoners. Trotters says, and it is true, this is Bottas's chance, extra running. That is absolutely true. Bottas could now capitalise on Hamilton's issue and get out there and get his confidence going and put Hamilton's confidence down. Absolutely. Good point. As Robert Kubica, who was on track, now comes into the pits. Everyone is in the pits except for Lance Stroll and Carlos Sainz. Lance Stroll, by the way, has just gone faster than he did previously. He's now gone up to 14th place. So he's up to 14th, and then 15th is Lando Norris, and in P16 now, Daniel Ricciardo. Let me put that on screen. There you go. So the current running order with 55 minutes to go is running along the bottom of your screen. Here is a replay of Grosjean almost losing it in the middle of 8. And I think he clipped the wall there. It looks very dirty at that part of the track. And yeah, hit the wall on his rear right. But it does definitely, in the middle of that corner, look very dirty. As Valtteri Bottas now and Sebastian Vettel are on outlaps on the soft compound tyre. So now we're going to see what Valtteri Bottas can do on the fastest tyre, and let's see how quick that Mercedes car is. As Bottas now comes through the hairpin. Great place for the fans to watch the cars. And now he comes onto the back straight and is about to start his lap. I believe Sebastian Vettel is behind him on track. Charles Leclerc now on track as Carlos Sainz pits. So only Bottas and the two Ferraris right now on the circuit as Valtteri Bottas starts his first proper qualifying simulation on the soft compound tyre. Comes through turns 1, 2 and 3. And now comes into turn 4. Let's see how this car turns in. It turns in very nicely and gets all right to the edge of the wall. And here he comes into the first sector. 3/10 up is Valtteri Bottas. No surprise, the soft compound a lot faster than the harder compounds of tyre. As he now opens the DRS down to turn 8. Brakes under the bridge. Now goes into 8 through 9. Car not looking great through there, but I think that's because the grip of the corner is a bit weird right now, as he's still 0.3 of a second up on Lewis Hamilton. Exits the hairpin now and goes onto the back straight. Opens the DRS. Valtteri will probably go half a second faster with this lap. And now turns in. Car looking sweet as. Opens the DRS. Takes the shortest run to the line. Does he? No, he doesn't. And goes faster by 0.6 of a second. Valtteri Bottas goes fastest as Sebastian Vettel is currently on a quali sim lap. Sebastian Vettel has done the fastest middle sector, to let you guys know. He now comes up to the final chicane, turns it in. Ferrari does not look anywhere near as good as the Mercedes does, but here he comes to the line and goes fastest to Sebastian Vettel. Sebastian Vettel goes fastest. Here comes Charles Leclerc. What can he do? Opens the DRS. And Charles Leclerc goes third. Only 0.1 of a second down. So, interesting. Ferrari, have they finally showed their speed? We'll have to see how Valtteri Bottas responds. But Vettel now fastest from Bottas second. Charles Leclerc is third. And now fourth is Lewis Hamilton. And then fifth right now is Max Verstappen. We're just seeing now Kevin Magnussen on a lap. He's currently down in P11, but this will improve him to probably comfortably inside the top 10. Here he comes now. And Kevin Magnussen goes P4. Very good lap by K-Mag. And again, showing that the soft compound of tyre is the compound you want to be on. Absolutely. The Magnussen goes up to P4. Hamilton 5th. And then you've got Verstappen 6th. 7th will be Nico Hülkenberg, who is now on a quali sim. Just started his lap. You got Sainz in 8th. 9th is Kvyat, And then 10th is Romain Grosjean, if I can spell his name correctly. And then 11th at the moment is Perez, but it's going to be swapping around a lot in the next couple minutes. So hold on to your seats, guys, because the order is going to get really shook up. Here comes Romain Grosjean on his first qualifying simulation run. Looking very quick there through turn 1, 2 and 3. By the way, Antonio Giovinazzi has had to take a precautionary gearbox, a new gearbox, after his collision at turn 9 in the morning. I'll quickly, as we're not seeing the lap times right now, because again they're showing Martin Brundle and Jenson Button trackside, I'll quickly show you guys a different picture of Hamilton's deflated rear tyre. There you go. In the Mercedes. Yeah, once we get back to what the times are, then we'll be able to see what is actually going on. And here, so Charles Leclerc is now fastest for Ferrari. So it's a Ferrari 1-2. That's more like it for Ferrari, and that's more like it in terms of the battle at the top. That is what we want to see. So Vettel second. Valtteri Bottas now drops to P3. Hülkenberg has gone up to P6 ahead of Max Verstappen. Red Bull not looking that great here. I think Verstappen is all right when he puts the lap in, but not looking that great. Ricciardo, though, goes P6 for Renault. So 6th and 7th for Renault. Looking good. Looking better than expected. But then again, lots of other people haven't done the soft tyre run. So we'll see how they do. But Hülkenberg is now in P7. And you got Verstappen in P8. Sainz is P9, and in P10 I believe at the moment is Danny Kvyat. Oh no, it's now Kimi Räikkönen, but Kvyat is on a lap, but it's not that great of a lap so far. So it's Kvyat 11th, and then you got Grosjean in 12th. 13th is Perez. 14th is Alex Albon, I believe it is. Yep, it is. And then you've got Pierre Gasly, Stroll, and then Norris in 17th. As Kvyat goes up to 9th. Let me quickly update that. Kvyat up to 9th. As P10, now it is Carlos Sainz, and then P11 is Kimi Räikkönen. So there you go. That is the current live order right now, but it will be changing around very quickly, as Alexander Albon is now on a lap, gets a slipstream from, I believe that is Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. It is. So Albon is probably going to go into the top 10 with this. Here he comes through the final chicane. Opens the DRS. We'll get another slipstream from Magnussen. And Albon goes P9. Good time. Very good time by Albon there. So Albon is up to 9th. 10th is Danny Kvyat, and then P11 is, oh no, P11 is now, well, yeah, the order is changing around massively. Kimi Räikkönen has just gone back up to P10. Now it's P11 for Danny Kvyat, as Pierre Gasly comes to the line, and only 8th. Only 8th. That is a poor lap. I'm sorry. That is not good enough for Gasly. He has to be going faster than that. He's behind 3 other midfield runners. That is not good enough. Albon is now P10. P11 is Kimi Räikkönen. And then P12, I believe, is Danny Kvyat. And then it's Grosjean and Perez in 13th and 14th. Oh no, it's Grosjean, then Carlos Sainz. Then Lando Norris. And then Perez and Stroll. As Max Verstappen does a faster first sector than Charles Leclerc, only by 9 thousandths of a second. But here he comes to the dreaded, at the moment, turn 9. The Red Bull is looking good, but it doesn't have enough power, it seems, to be successful. As he's 3 tenths down after the middle sector, and now comes onto the back straight, opens the DRS. Kvyat, by the way, goes back up to P11. Here comes Max Verstappen. Is his teammate going to get in the way? He does. What is Gasly doing? And Verstappen, I think, hit the wall. So Gasly there holding up his teammate at the final corner. That was terrible team play if that's what they were trying to do. But yeah, Max Verstappen, has he got damage to his car? I think he might do, because he definitely clipped the wall. But Kvyat, as I said, is back up to P11. Toro Rosso looking pretty alright at the moment. Is the replay. So yeah, banged his front tyre pretty hard. And that's because Gasly held him up. Not good team play at all. And I'm sure Helmut Marko and Christian Horner will give him a talking to for that. And yeah, I also rattled the rear wing. So yeah, not good there for Max Verstappen, and Red Bull not looking that good right now. And there is that scrape, and it is one big one. But there you go. I'm going to quickly now post a picture of the man who is currently fastest in practice 2 here at the 2019 Canadian Grand Prix weekend. And here he is, Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. Have Ferrari finally, as we go to an ad break, have Ferrari finally showed the speed that we thought they may have, say, a couple months ago, but we thought was not maybe possible. Well, hopefully that is the case. Hopefully that's the case. But again, this is Ferrari. I'm not going to get ahead of myself because Mercedes will definitely respond. By the way, there is a debate going on about Lewis Hamilton right now in the live chat. Let me see what it's about. Eugene Kelly saying, I don't understand why you people don't like Hamilton off the track. What did he do for you to feel that way? He doesn't get in trouble, commit any crimes. I'll be honest, when it comes to me, I can't speak for everyone else. They can speak for themselves. But for me, I don't care what Lewis Hamilton does away from the track. I couldn't care any less about what Lewis does away from the track. He could do whatever he likes as long as it's, again, not a crime. I don't care. If anyone else cares, that's their problem. But for me, I don't care what any of the drivers really get up to away from the track. I only care about what they do when they turn up to a race weekend, because that is what I care about. Right. Let me look at some comments whilst we're on an ad break. Crystal Racing says, I pray to the heavens that Ferrari have turned a corner. Let's hope so. But I wouldn't bet on it at all. I would not bet on it. I'm still saying Mercedes are the favourites because it's Ferrari. They're going to disappoint eventually. They always do. Kyle Greenwald says, this going to be a Ferrari 1-2. Happy days are here again. For now, definitely celebrate it, but I wouldn't get too ahead of yourself. Thank you, Chaz, for that. Yeah, that's just my personal opinion. If anyone else feels differently, then make sure to comment down below. But for me, I just don't care what the drivers do away from the track. In the same way, I don't care what footballers do away from the pitch. I don't care. I only care when they're actually doing what they are paid to do. So, yeah. Right, let me find some more comments. And Crystal Racing makes sure to say, for the sake of the sport, of course. This is the thing. With me, I don't care who wins. As long as we get a good battle up front and a good race from top to bottom, I don't care who wins the race. If Lance Stroll won every race, I wouldn't care. As long as the race and the racing is good. And having Ferrari and Mercedes up there going for victory would definitely improve the show, because Mercedes, like in Bahrain, would be pushed harder as a team and would be forced to really go wheel to wheel and racing with Ferrari. So it would be great for Formula One if Ferrari did, say from this Grand Prix on, start to improve. But again, I don't think we can start counting our chickens when it comes to that. As Max Verstappen, by the way, gets wheeled back into the pit lane, or back into his pits, by the way, as they are trying right now to repair Lewis Hamilton's car. They've literally pulled the rear end of his car off. This shows you how far ahead Mercedes are of the field. Here's a replay of Gasly is going to line up in the top 6 on the grid. I really don't see how he will. As we have 37.5 minutes left. And Carlos Sainz, by the way, out of nowhere, goes P4. Great lap. Showing truly what McLaren are capable of this weekend. Magnussen is in 5th. So Hamilton gets dropped down to P6. I don't think Hamilton, by the way, will come out again after that hit against the wall. Perez is 7th. And then you've got Ricciardo in 8th. Nico Hülkenberg is in P9. And then P10 is Lance Stroll. So Racing Point looking good. Then you've got Gasly 11th, Verstappen 12th. Red Bull look miles off. I think Verstappen can definitely go into, say, the top 3 or 4. But you have to say, Gasly is really, for this weekend, is in the midfield. He's not a top runner this weekend. Max Verstappen is P12, and then P13 is Alexander Albon. P14 is Danny Kvyat. And then you got 15th, Kimi Raikkonen. And then Grosjean in 16th. 17th is Norris. Norris has really struggled all day at this track. And then Russell, Kubica. And Giovinazzi has now. Valtteri Bottas is about to come on track to start, I believe, with 35 minutes to go. He's going to start his race simulation. So he knows, and the team knows, what to expect on race day. But yeah, Carlos Sainz for McLaren really looking good. And he has been one of the best drivers. Not one of the best drivers this season, but definitely a top 10 driver this season. He really has been good. And yet Hülkenberg, I believe, is now on, and he is. He's on his race simulation. So 35 minutes to go and the race simulations begin. By the way, Sainz's lap. And I know the track definitely improved when he did his lap. But Carlos Sainz only 4/10 off Charles Leclerc, who is currently top of the timesheets. So very good there. Very good there for Carlos Sainz. And 4/10 faster than Kevin Magnussen. Good there for Carlos Sainz. As Hülkenberg continues his race run. And here is, finally on track, Antonio Giovinazzi. So we should see a time from him. In a moment, he is on the hard compound tyre, so he won't go massively fast. But he will most likely do a quali run at the end. But I just want to show quickly what happened with Max Verstappen. Here you go, hitting the wall of champions. And that was really because his teammate Pierre Gasly held him up. And that is, well, poor team play, you have to say. And Giovinazzi about to start his lap. Right, let me look at some comments as we now get into the race runs. Crystal Racing says, I put Kvyat in Gasly's seat after the summer. If Pierre's slow pace continues. They might do that if Red Bull are in a close fight for second in the Constructors with Ferrari, which I think they will be in. They probably will, and they probably should do that. But we'll have to see if Gasly improves or not. But you have to say, he hasn't really improved massively compared to where he was in Bahrain. He has improved, but again, not massively. And you really do fear for him this weekend. He is looking like he is in the battle in the midfield. He might not even be the quickest runner, one of the quickest runners at the front of the midfield pack. He might be right in the midfield with Perez, Hülkenberg, Ricciardo, Grosjean, Albon, drivers like that. Really poor for Gasly. And it's not looking good for him keeping that seat for the whole season or even 2020. As Antonio Giovinazzi does a time, but stays 20th. So not great there, but there you go. Lando Norris, by the way, has just gone 14th for McLaren. 15th is now Danny Kvyat. So Toro Rosso's pace has slipped off a bit. Kimi Raikkonen is 16th. Alfa really do not look good here. They look like they're miles off the pace. And then you've got Grosjean 17th. I think Grosjean made a mistake on his lap because Magnussen is P5. So Grosjean can definitely go faster. But yeah, with that whole Kvyat replacing Gasly, that'll depend on the constructors. JB says, has anything happened so far? I've been away for reasons. Well, two real main talking points. Ferrari are 1 and 2 right now, and Lewis Hamilton is P6 because he not only hit the wall on the exit of turn 9, but I think broke his rear suspension and probably damaged his rear wing slightly as well. So Lewis Hamilton looks like he's out of the rest of the session. So not good for Hamilton. But yeah, those are really the main two talking points from practice 2. By the way, I just need to mention something because I saw a story yesterday, and I think right now, considering what's going on track, and it is the race simulations, which is quite boring, I think it's a good time to talk about this. There was a story yesterday of Lewis Hamilton. I think he came out and said this a couple weeks ago, but he came out and said that Martin Brundle has come out and said this, and I also echo what they're saying, that it's too easy for young drivers coming into Formula One. It's too easy for them to come in and learn the car easily in 1 hour and it not feel like a physical challenge to them. And I think Lewis Hamilton also was saying that the cars physically should be very demanding, and that right now they're just not, because of the way they are. Now, I think yesterday it was, Lando Norris came out and said that he felt that what Hamilton said was a personal attack on him. Now, I honestly don't see, as Lando Norris, by the way, goes up to P11, I don't see what Lando is talking about. He never mentioned him by name. He never vaguely referenced him. You couldn't tell it was Lando Norris who was being talked about. Lewis was talking about all young drivers, such as Leclerc, Stroll, Gasly, Albon, Norris, Russell. He was talking about all young drivers. He was talking about how those younger drivers, when they come into Formula One, it should feel physically, compared to F2 and F3, it should feel like a physical, a real physical step up for them. And it should be very, very demanding, not only for the young drivers, but for all the drivers, but definitely for the younger drivers. So it's not as easy for them to learn the cars as it is right now. And I honestly don't get what Norris was on about, saying that it felt like a personal attack. I don't know if he said precisely personal attack, but he definitely said that he felt it was a personal, comment directed at him. That's definitely what he was trying to say. And I honestly don't know what Lando Norris, what planet he's on when he's saying that, because he never talked about him. So, yeah, I don't get what Lando was on about, saying I felt it was a personal comment or attack against me, because it clearly wasn't. It clearly wasn't. He wasn't even attacking young drivers for saying that. He was just saying that the cars should be physically demanding, not that young drivers have it too easy. So, yeah, I really don't get what Norris was trying to say. Just want to make that point. So yeah, Norris, by the way, talking of him, is now into P11, ahead of Gasly in 12th. Max Verstappen 13th, and then you got Albon, Kvyat, Raikkonen, Grosjean. Now, Giovinazzi in 18th, and then Russell is 19th, then Kubica is 20th, as Nico Hülkenberg just came in for a pit stop. As we're seeing there, Jerome Stoll, the president of Renault Sport Racing, he has not once this season looked happy. And I don't think he'll ever look happy, because I don't think Renault are in for a good season. By the way, I'm seeing some comments about what Norris had to say. I'll read that in just a moment. I just want to try, if I can, and get another picture on the screen. So, yeah, just hold on a minute and I'll get to those comments, because I definitely want... I can't find one right now, which is disappointing, but I'll get to one in just a moment. I'll get to your comments in just a moment, as we have now 25 minutes to go in practice 2. Right, let me take a look at what you guys are saying. JB says, maybe Norris talked to Hamilton about a personal story, how it feels physically demanding that we don't know about, maybe. Maybe, but I don't think... I mean, Lewis Hamilton doesn't talk to that many drivers. And it's up to him. He's right. If he wants to be, very on his own, he's in the right to do that. It's his personal choice. But Lewis Hamilton doesn't come across to me as a driver that is very talkative with other drivers, like, say, Daniel Ricciardo is, or Sebastian Vettel. he tends to only talk to a certain type of driver. Say, I don't know, on the off chance, Vettel, his teammate, of course, Verstappen, maybe Raikkonen if in the same area. Hamilton isn't really the talkative sort. Crystal Racing says, a bit thin-skinned and passive-aggressive. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. I thought it was quite a weak comment by Lando. It was quite a weak comment to say that, to say what he said. Let me try and quickly, whilst I'm on Twitter, let me quickly try and find that article. I'm not going to read it out completely, but I just want to read out, say, the top story. Because I did find it very interesting that Lando said what he said. But John Hubner says, problem is the cars are easy to drive compared to the older generation cars. And if you're Hamilton driving a perfect Mercedes, shut the bleep up. Well, that's your opinion, but the cars are not as physically demanding as when Hamilton was driving in 2007, for example. And that's because, really, back in 2007, you had refueling and you had to push every lap. You couldn't afford to have a rest lap or have a 5-lap, say, saving tyres part of the race. You had to push like hell every lap back in those days. So I think I get what Hamilton is saying also from his own personal experiences. Because when he came into Formula 1 at 22, he came into a sport where it was basically, in a race, 60 to 70 qualifying laps in a row. Now it's basically 1 or 2 proper fast laps in a race. The other 60 odd are really quite slow because they're trying to, conserve the tyres. Right, let me find. And yeah, so Norris, McLaren rookie Lando Norris felt personally targeted by Lewis Hamilton when the Mercedes driver stated on Thursday that F1 should be a man's sport. Yeah, he never mentioned you. I don't know what you're talking about. And Lewis Hamilton responded saying, honestly, not targeting anyone and definitely not you. It's a wider point I am speaking of. You are doing a great job. I wasn't a teenager when I got here. And also Norris made the point that it's much harder now than when he started in Formula 1. I disagree. Physically, it's not as demanding as it was back in 2007. It's not. It's absolutely not. Compared to Lewis Hamilton's situation, yeah, Norris is in a harder situation because McLaren are not at the front of the field like they were in 2007. But in terms of the cars and their demands physically, it's not even comparable. The 2007, 2008 era of racing cars were way more demanding than the 2018, 2019 cars. There is no debate to be had. And yeah, Hamilton said he wasn't targeting anyone. And he was, talking more on a wider scale. So I don't know what Lando's talking about. Let me read out some more comments to do with this. Crystal Racing. Let me read out your comment a minute. He says, plus the 2007 cars weigh 605 kilograms and groove tyres despite traction control, light cars with limited mechanical grip. The 2007 cars were definitely more demanding. I don't see how that's really a debate, honestly. James Zoo says, I only heard Lando said he don't get Lewis's point because Lewis's race car in 2007 has more driving aids and is easy, if not more. True, but again, they were pushing a lot harder in the races back then than they are today. Back then, they were pushing as hard as humanly possible on every single lap they did in practice, qualifying and in the race. There was no time that you could really have a rest lap or go slow. It was every lap pushing to the absolute limit of what you can do physically and what the car can do. That isn't the case today, and that's why Formula One is in a worse situation in terms of the racing, because the cars don't get pushed during the races really that hard. By the way, we've come back from an ad break and we're looking at the rear wing of a Ferrari. If you just joined us, we have 20 minutes to go in practice 2. The current running order of practice 2 is running along the bottom of your screen. And yes, that is correct. It's a Ferrari 1-2 for now. But I wouldn't bet on them doing that in qualifying, because I think Ferrari will still end up a bit further behind. Ben McCarthy says, I'll be honest, arriving in a team like McLaren, who were at the centre of Spygate during 2007, isn't the most comfortable. Isn't the most comfortable position to be in. Yeah, absolutely. But again, I want to make the point. Again, they were pushing so hard. Yes, they did have traction control, and they also had engine braking, but when they took those away the next year in 2008, the cars were still had to be pushed to the very edge. And yes, they were harder to drive, but they still had to be pushed to the very, very edge of what they could do. Right, let me... By the way, Formula One fan, could you clarify what you're talking about? Because I don't understand what you're actually talking about. Ferrari will do it, trust me, says Louis Trichard, I think it is. Sorry if I've mispronounced it. If I have, then make sure to correct me. But yep, still everyone except for Lewis Hamilton and now Lando Norris on a race simulation right now. Annoyingly, we don't know what the times are right now. Oh, Williams, they're going to get a fine for that unsafe release by Robert Kubica. He didn't get released fully, but I think he might get a fine for that anyway. Or not he, but, you know, the team might get a fine for that anyway. Because that was really, really close to quite a big pit lane accident. But, yeah, with 17 minutes to go, guys, make sure to keep your comments coming about the Hamilton-Norris stuff I just talked about, and also what's going on in practice 2. As Carlos Sainz currently we're watching on track, the McLaren looks pretty good. Nothing amazing, but pretty good compared to its midfield competitors. Let me get this picture on screen of... It's the Ferrari of Sebastian Vettel, who is currently in second place. There you go. Let me adjust it. There you go. So yeah, Ferrari right now, fastest of all. Will that remain the case for qualifying? We'll have to see tomorrow, of course. But right now, it is looking good for Ferrari. It's looking very good for Ferrari. Yeah, keep your comments coming, guys. Let me read out some in the chat. JB asks, is Nib still here? Just wondering. I think Nib has probably gone off to sleep, because you have to remember, right now in Australia, it's about 5 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, he probably won't be around right now, but he will be around for the race watch along on Sunday, Sunday night in the UK. Formula One fan says, Sky reported there had been a meeting, the new rules, and one put forward was that your car is the car you have when you turn up. No mechanics allowed to adjust anything all weekend. Toto said no. I agree with that. I see what they're trying to do, but I agree with that. I don't think that's really an area they need to start making changes to, because is it going to improve the racing? No, it's not going to. There are much more important things that will improve the racing if they make an alteration or a change to it. Doing that won't improve. Right, let me find some more comments. As I'm just looking at Norris getting very close to the wall, at the Wall of Champions. John Huebner says Ferrari will need a miracle like when Alesi won in Canada in 1995. Ben McCarthy says the softs aren't durable enough for long stints that'll make Q2 interesting. It will. And I think in Q2 they're going to have to, the top teams, they're going to have to start on the soft compound tyre for the Grand Prix, because the medium won't have enough speed to get into Q2. It won't. It really won't. So Mercedes, Ferrari, definitely Red Bull, they're going to have to go out there on the soft, bang in a great lap in Q2 tomorrow, and hope that that's enough, and it really should be. But I don't think there'll be any medium tyre runners in qualifying. I don't see how anyone is really going to be able to pull that off. I just don't see how they can. But yeah, we'll talk more about that tomorrow, of course, in qualifying. Louis says the picture shows Ferrari's understeer. Yeah, it kind of does. It does. Let me look at the chat. Crystal Racing, by the way, in response to that new rule, says dumb idea. Formula 1 fan says a few said no as he tuned the car for the track, and what they want is to get rid of testing parts. That idea, again, is just, it doesn't make any sense. It's not going to improve anything. Ben McCarthy says or asks, Chaz, would you change the practice format for F1 weekends? Yes, I would, and it would be a radical one. But I don't think I have enough time to talk about that here. Maybe I'll talk about it in the next podcast, but I would definitely make changes. Put it this way, there would be action not only on Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the entire race weekend, but also on Thursday, and I would have 4 practice sessions, but put in a way that allows plenty of as a Haas there goes down the escape road back onto the pit straight over the chicane. I would create a format that allows good track time for the spectators at the track, and also allow the young drivers to have a go in the cars on a Thursday. But right, Kurt Borman asks, why is it that Ferraris are faster than Mercedes on the soft tyres? Or are Mercedes sandbagging again? It's one of either two things. Either Ferrari have finally turned their power unit up and are showing the speed that they do genuinely have, or Mercedes are sandbagging. I would probably say Mercedes are sandbagging. I think Mercedes can definitely, if forced, go faster. I have no doubt about that. So yeah, Ferrari are 1-2, but I don't think that'll be the case in qualifying. I hope it is, so we'll get a good front race on a Sunday, but I don't think that will be the case. Right, let me find some more comments here. Crystal Racing says, on the topic of Alfa's pace, they were quick in Monaco practice but slow in qualifying, so they might be a surprise tomorrow. I hope so, I really do, but I'm not that confident, because once all the soft tyre runs are finished, every time Kimi has ended up dropping back outside the top 10. So yeah, it's not looking great for Alfa. Again, I hope the opposite will happen to what happened in Monaco, but I'm not that confident of that. Simon Troop, do you think one-shot qualifying would mix up the grid? Well, if I was running Formula 1, I would bring back the 2003/2004 qualifying system. The one that we have right now is great, but my favourite is that one because it's a great TV spectacle and it also puts the teams and especially the drivers under pressure because they only have one lap where they can get pole position or get into the top 10, stuff like that. The qualifying system right now doesn't need to go, but in an ideal world, in my ideal world, we would have that system because I thought that system was, again, a great TV spectacle and really put the teams and drivers under pressure. John Huebner says, and I do agree with him. He says, I have more fun at the races on practice days than I do on race day because less crowded and you tend to be able to move around different areas of the track. Well, that's why I really had a lot of fun going to testing because even though there was people there, once you got away from the main grandstand area opposite the pits, it was quite dead around the track and it was easy to go walking around the track, sit in different places, have plenty of space to look at the cars and sit, walk around. It was great. It was great. And I definitely had, and I think I can say now, if I went to a race this season, I probably wouldn't have as much fun as I would have, or as I did have, going to testing this year. Because testing, again, you get to see the cars in a more open area. But not only that, you get to see the cars for longer because remember on a race weekend, the Formula 1 cars are only on track for about 7.5 to 8 hours. That's 1 day of testing in pre-season. So if you, like I did, go to 4 days of testing, you get to see all the cars for so long and it not be too crowded. So as John Huebner said, very rightly, you can move around and have fun. Yeah, I do agree. Right, let me find a few more comments. Ben McCarthy, what's been up with Red Bull today? I know Max hit the wall, but it hasn't seemed that promising. Well, if Max had not hit the wall, I think he would be in the top 4 right now. But simply, they're just not that quick. But I think Max Verstappen will still be in the top 5 on the grid after qualifying. But the problem is, because Pierre Gasly is very slow right now in the Red Bull, and because the midfield is not too far behind Red Bull, that means that Red Bull have one driver who is fighting at the front of the field and one driver who is fighting in the midfield. So they can't really go for Ferrari like they could, say, last year with Verstappen and Ricciardo, 2 top drivers, because one of their drivers is really in the midfield. I mean, if you look at this season, when has Pierre Gasly really been fighting near the front of the field in terms of pace or racing on track? He never really has. In Australia, yeah, the team really effed up his weekend with that qualifying error, but in the race he didn't really do that well. Bahrain, he was terrible. China, in qualifying he was basically a midfield runner, but then in the race where he was comfortably a more so top runner, even though he was nowhere near the top 5 that race. Baku, his pace was looking good, but then got the penalty for the mistake he made. And then retired, even though he did get up eventually to P6. Spain, he was in the top 6 all weekend, but he was closer to the Haas on pace than he was the 5 ahead of him. And then in Monaco, rightfully got a penalty in qualifying. As some of Bottas's rear end of his car falls off there. Only small pieces, don't worry, no big deal. In Monaco, he was again a midfield runner. He's never really been a top runner this season. And what's that? I thought the Haas front wing there was stuck inside the Mercedes for some reason. It was just a camera angle. But yeah, again, Pierre Gasly has never really been at that top battle with Ferrari and his teammate. Never really has. And that is why, if he does get dropped, that's what the reasoning will be. Do you think Gasly will be replaced by Saika Kvyat? I think if he gets replaced, it's more likely to be Albon. If Albon continues to impress like he has been, because I don't think Red Bull will want to put Kvyat back in the car. If Kvyat massively outperforms Albon, then they will. But I think preferably they'd like Albon in that car ahead of Kvyat if that's what they have to do. But by the way, I'm about to post another picture of a Mercedes. This one is of Valtteri Bottas earlier on. So let me get that up for you guys. Valtteri Bottas, with 3.5 minutes to go, of course, is currently in P3, as everyone except for Lewis Hamilton is on a race simulation. So I'll put this picture up as one of the final ones of the day. Here he is, Valtteri Bottas, locking up, going down into the turn 10 hairpin. Very nice shot there. I'll read out a couple more comments and then we'll obviously get to the end of practice 2, and I'll do a quick review of what's happened and then plug what I'm going to be doing tomorrow on the channel. Right, let me find. And by the way, DS Queenie, note Lewis Hamilton not back on track, and that is because he did damage his right rear wheel and suspension quite badly. I don't know if it will result in some sort of Vettel going off at the final chicane, not into a wall, but he did hop across the curb very hard. But yeah, Hamilton not on track because his car is a bit badly damaged. I don't know if he will have to take a new gearbox or anything like that. But yeah, he can't get back out on track. His car really took a pounding against that wall. And yep, there's a replay. Vettel locking up, I think. No, didn't lock up. He turned in. Wasn't, for his feeling, enough grip. And then turned out of the corner. Simple as that. As we've now got 2 minutes to go. No problem, DS Queenie. So if any of you guys have got any final comments, make sure to put them in the live chat and also the comment section, and I'll make sure to respond as soon as I can before the end of the session. Right, let me find. Well, let me see if there's any more that I can respond to. Formula One fan says, and it's true, the fact is they push the cars harder in practice and qualifying, and that's down to one thing. It's actually no, two things: fuel and tyres. Back in 2004, the tyres weren't massively harder, but they were a lot more able to take a constant say, you know, pounding of, say, repeated qualifying laps like they used to do back in the day. And of course, they used to refuel, and I think back in 2003, 2004, and even 2007, 2008, they used to do at least 2 pit stops, if not 3. So they really did have to push very, very hard. Right, let me find a final comment as we've got half a minute left now in practice 2. Do you think Hamilton will get a grid penalty? I don't think so. I don't think it was that bad. If he hit it, say, a bit harder, he probably would have had some sort of damage resulting in a a grid penalty, but I don't think he will. I don't think he will. Right, let me find final comment. And John Huebner says, we went to, and the practice session, by the way, is over, as you can see in the top left. So there you go. Let me just quickly replace the text and then read out a couple of your comments that I was about to read. FP2 is over. So there you go, guys. Practice 2 has officially finished. John Huebner's comment was, we went to the Jim Clark Classic races. All the pit area was open to the public. Was awesome. I am definitely jealous of you there. I would have loved to have gone to something like that. And final comment from the chat is from Crystal Racing. Stroll and Grosjean, the two stooges of F1. Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, practice 2 is over. And we do have some interesting talking points to talk about. First off, Mercedes looked very quick in the first half of the practice session. But after Lewis Hamilton hit the wall and badly damaged his car, it really went downhill in the session after that, as Valtteri Bottas on his soft tyre run did go fastest, but was then beaten by the two Ferraris. And Ferrari, you have to say, after practice, looking very quick. Hopefully, that translates into tomorrow, so we can have a great battle for pole position. But I still think Mercedes are the favourites for pole, because I think Mercedes are most likely holding some performance back. We're looking a bit close at the top, and that's of course what we want to see. Red Bull, very scruffy day of practice, and they'll definitely want to, in practice 3, get things organised within their team. But Red Bull, I think with Max Verstappen, they can get into P5, but for Pierre Gasly, I think for this weekend he is restricted to being a midfield runner. Then, as we get into the midfield, it is very, very close. Renault look pretty good. If they can qualify where they finished in practice 2, which is inside the top 10, they are in for a good weekend. So looking good for Renault so far. Hopefully that can be translated. McLaren, with one of their cars looking very quick in Carlos Sainz. Lando Norris P11. I think that's mainly to do with Lando Norris not being used to this track. You have to remember, today is the first day of running Norris has ever had at the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. Carlos Sainz has been here since 2015. So Carlos Sainz, of course, is going to get the most and the better out of the McLaren car. But with Carlos Sainz, it's looking good for McLaren. And if they can replicate that type of pace compared to the midfield, the McLaren are in for a good day. Alfa Romeo, not looking good at all. I hope they can step it up for tomorrow, but I'm not sure they are going to. But let's hope. Let's keep our fingers crossed that they can do so. Haas, looking kind of like McLaren, good with one car, but the other car not so much. Kevin Magnussen, as usual, when it comes to one-lap pace, he is very, very strong. And if he can replicate that tomorrow, he will be in the top 10. For Romain Grosjean, he really does need to start performing consistently on a good basis now, because I honestly do think his seat is up for grabs. And I think his future in Formula 1 is really in doubt. Not because of today, but because of how just inconsistent he does tend to be. Next up, Toro Rosso. Looking about where I thought they'd be. P14, P15. Maybe they could be better, but yeah, that's about where I thought they would be. They are close to teams like Renault and Racing Point. But it's looking okay for Toro Rosso. They can definitely improve, but looking okay for now. One team, though, looking very good is Racing Point. Perez P7, Stroll P10. Looking good for Racing Point. Looking more so like the team that is P5 in the Constructors, which they are right now, of course. If they can replicate that tomorrow, it'd be a massive boost for them in the Constructors' Championship fight. But it will be tough with teams like Renault, McLaren, Haas around them, really giving them a tough time. And of course, Williams are at the very, very back. But guys, that has been it for Practice 2 and the Practice 2 watch along today on the channel. And there you go, that is the end screen. So yeah, thank you guys for coming along and being a part of this stream and watching along Practice 2 with me for the 2019 Canadian Grand Prix. Just to let you guys know, tomorrow I will be live at 6 PM UK time. That's 1 hour before qualifying gets underway. We'll be live for qualifying, for the qualifying watch along from 7. 6 till 7 is the build up, then 7 till 8 is qualifying, and then from 8 to about 8:30 we'll do a reaction to what has happened in qualifying, and then shortly after that, probably 45 minutes to an hour after that, the review of qualifying will be uploaded as well. So don't forget to check out those videos, and also don't forget to subscribe to this channel for watch-alongs for qualifying and the race, as watch-alongs for the F1 race this weekend is the only place you can see watch-alongs on the website this weekend. So don't forget to subscribe for that content. On the bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or go to my homepage, subscribe and hit the notifications bell for that content. And also don't forget to smash the video with a like. Comment down below what you thought of this video, and also what did you think of Practice 2, and let me know, do you think Ferrari can legitimately compete with Mercedes this weekend? Let me know what you think in comments. And also don't forget to check out and join our Discord server, link below in the description. That is the best place, that server, for notifications for my videos and live streams, and also it is the hardcore Chazza HDL F1 community and is very active on a race weekend. So if you want to be part of that community of over 200 people, then make sure to go and join that right now. Link in the description. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Chaz6110, and check out my website chazahd.com for more content like this. But guys, until 6 o'clock PM UK time tomorrow for the qualifying watch along for the 2019 Canadian Grand Prix, it has been me, ChazzaHD. Goodbye.